Hi, everybody. Getting ready
Good
for the mini
morning.
chat. Hey, Fred. How are you?
I'm well. How are you doing, Christine?
Do I hear you?
I don't know. Do you?
I do now. Do you hear me?
I do.
All right.
You're wearing a sweater today. What's your weather like there?
Um, it's a little dreary. It's probably maybe it's in the 50s.
Oh,
But it's ugly and kind of damp. Yeah, I got the whole thing going on. I got a turtleneck. I got a sweater. Oh,
yes. As soon as I heard the word Florida yesterday, Miami on that meeting agenda, I was yes.
yeah, I know. It's seems like it's been a long, hard winter. And it's not over yet.
Yes, if you're on the east of the Rockies, basically, it's been terrible.
Yeah, really. Well, and my biggest fear, as always at this time of year, is that all of a sudden it's going to be summer. And I haven't had time to mentally prepare or, kind of physically prepare. And then it's like you rush around to try to do summer stuff and be summer like, and because, it doesn't last long.
Whilst acquiring a healthy sunburn because you haven't been in the sun. That's what
Right.
happens here, you know.
Yeah, the sun becomes a shock to your system. It's
Yeah.
amazing.
Suddenly, if you find yourself out in the sun every day, all the time, well, you boat as well, right? And it's
Yes.
all
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
yes.
no, our biggest issue with the summer here is when it gets windy. And we have already had a couple super windy days. In fact, just yesterday it was windy, and I was doing a meeting from my office up here on the second floor of my house, and it sounded like elephants running over the top of the roof. And
Wow.
I finally realized it's just, the house is kind of creaking a little because the wind was so horrendous. All right, we got some people signing in here. Go ahead and sign in with where you are located, and I will find the right glasses so I can read them all. How's that?
I was going to ask you about that.
Well, it's one problem with the cloudy weather. On a sunny day, this isn't usually a problem, but with the cloudy weather, yeah. All right, so who's in here? We've got Gavin from North Carolina, and PJ is in here, although she's going to make me guess where she's from. Oh, she's in Seattle. Oh,
Oh,
nice. Brett from California, and David in Arizona. Camilo in China. Wow, long way. T-Bone, where are you from? Hello, hello. Charlie in North Carolina. Jackson is in Albuquerque. Let's see. Yep, they hit the mid 90s in Arizona all week. Well, good for you. But it's a dry heat.
yeah, yeah.
I don't really know what that means. But anyway, we joke about it here in the Northeast because everything we have is wet.
Yeah. Well, I've been in the Philippines, very very humid, so I can understand how it would make a difference. The humidity in the Philippines will just tire you out so fast.
Yeah. One thing I found interesting when I first started spending time in Key West is that that was the first time I saw these misters for the outdoor patios and things. And I thought, it's already so hot and steamy. Why are we adding more water to the air?
Yeah.
But hey, I'm not an engineer. Who else? William from Orlando, and Karen in Colorado, and the Green Ducks View. I don't know what your first name is, maybe, from DC. Let's see. Oh, yes, Camilo, you're far away and it's a big time difference. Oh, dear. I hope you didn't have to get up in the middle of the night to join us. But if you did, I'm so appreciative.
Yeah.
We'll make sure that we give you some information that was really worth getting out of bed for. How's that? Boy, Fred, I kind of set us up there. We're going to have to
Yeah.
really not go out of the park today.
Yeah, that's right.
T-Bone is in Nebraska. Nice in the 70s. How nice. Joy. Let us know where you're dialing in from. um, all right, so why don't we go ahead and get started? Fred, are you ready to kick us off with some mindset information?
I am.
All right, let's go.
Millennials. Millennials age group is from 20 to 36. And when you look roughly, when you look at a lot of the people in JOD, it's a fairly large number that meet that age group. And I'm sorry that you've been picked on all your life as being a millennial, but you do have some problems. And that stems from the practice of giving everybody an award. Even though it's been proven that the student that gets a reward for not doing well is embarrassed to have it. It's a silly thing to do. Bringing your bringing your phone into a restaurant with your loved one, with your family, and texting, that's a problem. That's a big problem. It really is. Going into a meeting, putting your phone on the table, that's a problem. That's telling other people that they're not important to you. So millennials, and I've worked with quite a few as a supervisor as well. A millennial will look at the summit, but not the mountain. They're really looking for quick gratification. We all are, not just millennials, but more so millennials. So what I'm getting at here is that there is no quick fix to be an entrepreneur or being employed anywhere else for that matter. It's a lot of work, and it's the way that you've been set up is unfortunate for you if you're a millennial, because you tend to want to get gratification rather quickly. And in the business world, you need to slow yourself down, be patient, do not be lazy, and get organized, and do something in an organized fashion every single day for your business. So that's sort of a mindset thing in a way. It's a specific group of people, but I think a lot of GOD members are like that. And I'm answering Facebook questions and that type of thing in the public group. And one day I asked, why don't we start to list what this main stopgap, which is keeping me from running my business or moving ahead with my business. And every time it was self-doubt and not having the confidence to think that you can move forward. Because what happens is you get an award every time you do, perform at whatever level you may be performing at. And then you get in the real world and you find out that you need to really raise the bar. And we all do. We need to keep it high. So I know it's a little kind of a convoluted mindset message, but I just thought I'd pick on the millennials just a little bit more today.
All right. Well, you know what, Fred? We'll give you that latitude, but I'm going to help spread some of that blame around because, as Camila was about to point out in the text, millennials didn't make themselves that way. Their parents, my generation, made them that way. So we can blame ourselves a little bit. But I think it's really important to recognize also the benefit. So every type of personality, every type of work mindset has a place in an organization. We can't all be everything. We have to get some of the things that we need from other people. And I can tell you, one of the things that I have always relied on, like for at least the last 10 years, one of the things I have always relied on is working with younger people in an organization. And I find that their energy helps me. I feed off of their energy because, they're not cynical yet. And there's something to be said for that. Oh, way back in the day when I was teaching, I always preferred to teach freshman classes rather than senior classes because in the freshman classes, people raised their hands. It wasn't like I was standing there talking to myself. You know, they wanted to participate. They were enthusiastic and they weren't afraid to make a mistake. By the time you got to the senior classes, oh, they were too cool for school and they weren't going to answer your question or laugh at your joke or kind of go along with things. And I have found that later in life in the work world is that some of the younger employees or coworkers or colleagues or whatever you want to call them bring that energy, and I like to feed off of that. In exchange, I think that I bring a little bit more of the reality and some really good organizational techniques and the consciousness that you have to, as you mentioned, get organized and work hard. So I think there's a great balance. And as long as we have different people from different backgrounds and different generations and with different work styles in our group, we can all benefit from that. And I think it's interesting that you bring up the millennials today because I just finished writing an article for this online thing where I publish. And it did kind of mention millennials, but it was really about maintaining your sanity in work. And the whole idea is that we strive so hard. This has become our collective work ethic, is that you have to work 24 hours a day and you have to work all the time and always be thinking about work and push, push, push. And people create goals for themselves, like, you know, I'm gonna make it to management before I'm 30, or I'm gonna be the youngest partner in this firm, and you know, these sort of almost impossible deadlines that they create for themselves, and they push, push, push. And I think that that's something that we do in this group. And I think I'm not criticizing. I think it's, for many people, it's out of necessity. If you're working a 9-to-5 job, which we all know doesn't actually only keep you busy between the hours of 9 and 5, it's more like, you know, 8 and 6 or beyond. And if you're trying to break out of that by creating your own stream of passive income, then you have to push extra hard. You have to find time where you don't have time to get the work done, to work on this course, to learn what you need to learn to move forward. Otherwise, you're just going to be in that same rut. And I did some thinking about what all of that hard working, striving, pushing through, you know, sleep deprived type of work lifestyle does to our sanity. You know, after a while, you kind of lose track of what day it is. You kind of lose track sometimes of your name or where you're going, what you're doing. And that is a really good time to stop and just get reorganized. It's okay to work hard. It's great to work hard, but make sure that you're working hard and smart at the same time. If you're simply working every moment of the day that you're awake, you might not be getting the benefit of your hard work. You might just be slogging instead of striving, you know, slogging through life instead of striving. So if you reach that point, it's a good idea to stop, reinvigorate your goals, take a look at, okay, what am I trying to accomplish? And this particular activity that I'm spending a lot of time on, how is that connected to my goal? Is that going to get me closer to my goal? Or is that just a time suck, just sucking up my time, making me feel like I'm busy, I must be accomplishing, when in fact, I'm just going in a circle and I'm not moving forward. And I think that when you start this course, it's easy to start to feel like you're kind of in that vortex. You're just going around because the whole first section, all of the information at the beginning of the course, right through the researching and choosing the right product, feels inactive. You're not actually doing, or at least you feel like you're not doing, because you're learning. It's all, you know, a lot of the activities are going on inside your brain where you can't see it. Um, and so it's easy to get caught up and feel like, oh, I'm putting all this time in, but am I reaching a goal? And that's why it is so important to have those to-do lists and to connect your activities to your goal. Now, when the things that are on your to-do list today, when you complete them, you might not reach your goal. There may be some interim steps, especially if you're just starting the research. If your goal is to get something up and selling on Amazon, the first, I don't know how many items on your to-do list are going to get you closer to that, but they're not going to get you there. You have to kind of create those interim steps, because first you have to learn. Then you have to apply what you've learned. You have to go through the steps of the research process again and again and again. Practice. Practice does feel like you're just kind of going around clicking buttons, but it's what's going on in your brain that is the important part, so that when you get to the next stage, when you actually choose your product and you're ready to move on to the next couple steps, you have a solid foundation and you are in fact moving forward. So when it comes to scheduling activities that take time and that are repetitive, like practicing the research process or watching videos and rewatching videos to make sure you've covered all the material, set a time limit for yourself. Say, okay, I'm going to devote, especially when you're doing the research process and you're simply, clicking buttons and hitting save and clicking buttons. Say, okay, I'm going to devote a half an hour a day to this. And it's going to take several days of chunks of 1/2 hour to get to the point where you have enough things saved on your research list to start a deeper dive. But when you set a time limit like that, you can more easily see that you are moving toward your goal, instead of just, oh my God, I've spent the last 2 weeks and it seems like all I've done is click this button and I'm no closer to anything. So that's just a thought. Let me pick up on some of these comments. And while I'm reading through the comments, what I'd like to do is grab some questions. I have a specific question for you guys this week. I would like to know what it is that makes you feel, what's holding you back? What's holding you back in this journey toward being successful on Amazon? If you've started this journey with us from the very, very beginning, maybe what's holding you back from choosing a product, or what's holding you back from launching a product? Why are you not where you want to be right now? That's my question to you. Sorry, reading comments. Oh, Jurgis, you don't have to defend the millennials. We're not attacking them. A handful of them are responsible for many of the innovations that are moving us forward now. You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
And I often suspect that, my grandparents, although I don't recall talking about this with them, I'm sure they had the same feeling that I have now. Oh, kids nowadays. I think every generation feels that way.
Yes, and I was just joking too about teasing the millennials. One other point I think that goes hand in hand with what Christine is saying is, what are you willing to sacrifice when you think about what's holding you up? My wife and I have discussions fairly often about raising capital somehow, and we've actually finally decided to do a fairly big move with our mortgage and all that kind of thing, and really loosen up some real significant help that way, so that it's no longer going to be a question of, oh gosh, there's business insurance and there's trademarking and there's all these different things, and that part gets overwhelming when you get to that stage to try and do things properly. So that could very well be a common stop gap. So the question I would ask on top of what Christine is asking is, if that's the case, then what are you willing to change or give up to get moving? Because after I got a positive from my spouse about making this move, I feel great now. because I'm going to have 10 times more than what I need when this is done. And I've never been in that position since I've been in GOG. So, and I'm good to go as far as knowledge and all that sort of thing. But I've always needed the capital. I'm retired, so it's not like it's not like I can go and work a bunch of overtime or something to, put it together. So I'd just like to piggyback that question as well.
That's a really good point, Fred. And we're getting some people writing in there, that fear of failure and losing limited seed money. Those are real, and we don't have a magic answer for that. But what I want to say is, it happens, and we live through it. And I'll be very honest with you. One thing that one cycle I keep going around that I have got to find a way to break is I take my extra money from sales and then I launch new products and then I'm poor and then I have nothing and then I panic like, well, how am I going to restock any of this stuff? Because now I've got myself down to zero again. What am I doing? That is a cycle that I have been around a number of times. And one thing I can tell you is I always come back around. So it's not fatal, but I would like to stop going around that circle and kind of move forward into a different circle. And I need to figure out at what point am I making the wrong decision and have to stop myself and say, okay, no, I did it that way the last 3 times. This time I'm going to do it differently. So let's take a look at some of these questions. Hold on, you're scrolling away from me. Okay, William says, this is not holding me back, but I'm having trouble with taxes in the start section. I went to set up the tax section following the instructions in the tax section. I didn't have the tax settings in Seller Central. Is there something causing that? I'm not sure I have an answer for you. Maybe, I don't know. They should be there. They should be there. So either you need to go back and watch the video again, like follow the instruction again. And then if you really can't find them where they belong, contact Seller Central and tell them, hey, I'm looking for that I need to set up my tax settings on my account and I can't find the right, and they will walk you through it. Seller Central is really good about stuff like that. Here's a realistic beginner fear, being afraid of not having enough information. And I can understand that fear. Now that you're a member of Just One Dime, you certainly have access to enough information. So now the responsibility falls to you to figure out which information you need at any particular time, and then get that out of the course. There are a lot of resources in this course that you now have access to. So you have on the member website, you have access to all of the sections of the course, all 5 sections, as they open up to you. You also have access to the weekly webinars, including this wonderful webinar. I think now we have a webinar on every single day. So Monday through Friday. So you have access to those. If the timing is not right for you, you have access to the replays of those. And let me talk for just a second about the value of these webinars. So they're all focused around slightly different topics. The Monday webinar is the main webinar, and the topic of that webinar can fluctuate quite a bit. But the topic is always chosen by something topical, something trending, either in our Facebook group or in Amazon in general. So chances are pretty good, whatever the topic of the week is something that you need to know about. So that's Monday. Tuesday is the European Sellers Group. I would say that even if you don't live in Europe or are not currently selling in the European markets, there's some great information in that group for you, because one of the things that they focus on a bit more than some of the other webinars is living outside of the country where you're selling. And that involves some specific nuances that you want to learn, and you probably want to learn them from the people who are actually doing that. So there's that. Plus the idea that once you master this whole Amazon thing on Amazon.com, that you would then expand your business into some of the European markets is a real possibility. So learning a little bit more about what's going on in those markets by meeting with that group will be helpful too. The Wednesday Q&A, I cannot imagine who that doesn't help. They cover all kinds of topics. They just do Q&A right off, for the whole hour. And they throw in a little bit of humor and some foreign accents. So that's always helpful and fun. Thursday is the writing workshop. So we cover anything related to writing that has to do with your Amazon business. We've recently done some work on marketing plans, writing a marketing plan. We talk about how to create content for your website, how to write your listing. We've even done some work on how to write to your suppliers or contact your suppliers. So it's written communication in all aspects of your business. So there's always something going on there. And then Friday, Fred and I we just randomly take questions from people who are new to the group and may have questions that they feel are maybe a little too elementary to ask in the other group. So we don't make anybody feel bad about not knowing what a DDP is or a FNSKU or PPC. Sometimes I can't come up with the answer to that one. I forget. So that's the Friday group. So there's a lot of information just in all of those webinars. Like I said, the replays are available. So there's a ton of information, which means that even if you joined this group today, you have access to months worth of replays on those webinars. And then of course there's the Facebook group. We have, are we up to, it's over 1,800 members now, right, Fred? Have we hit 2,000 yet?
I don't know if we hit 2,000, but we're certainly close.
So we have members in that Facebook group who are selling in every Amazon market in the world. The level of experience, now we certainly have a bunch of beginners who have joined the course with no e-commerce experience at all. But we also have a bunch of experienced sellers who are part of our community because they recognize the value of doing this with people. It's not just a means to an end, it's part of their entrepreneurial lifestyle. So the amount of information that is already in the Facebook group, if you just search it, is tremendous. And then you always have the option of asking your own personal question, and you could get 1,800 answers from people who have been there. And I love the fact that we're in all these different time zones around the world. So if you're up late at night working, or I tend to work early in the morning on the East Coast, which there's always someone in there. You never feel like, oh, I can't get help. It's like a customer service phone line. Oh, I can't get help now. And there's nobody's gonna answer the line. In our Facebook group, at any hour of the day, you can put a question in there and someone's in there and they're gonna give you an answer.
With the stopgap, in this case being not knowing, I'm getting an echo, it's difficult to talk. Not knowing if you have enough information, that's a really good one, and I share that. I've been in JOD for over a year, and I'm still learning something every day. So if you learn something every day, you look at it and go, wow, what if I was in mid-operation and I didn't know that? I could have fallen down that rabbit hole. So you tend to end up with analysis paralysis, same kind of personality that I have. So you need to look towards some of these other people that they pull the trigger, they take the risk, they do what they're doing, and they're making lots of money. So there's has to be a balance there with that.
That leads into this other comment here, Fred. My problem is that I feel like I need to have everything exactly right before I begin. I know I need to learn from my mistakes, but I don't want to make costly mistakes. That's absolutely reasonable. And let me give you a different perspective on that. Instead of making everything perfect before you start, think about building your Amazon business in layers. So the first time around, everything is not going to be perfect. You're going to get enough of it right to keep moving forward. And then you're going to go back and add another layer of, we'll call it perfection, add another layer of perfection and another layer of perfection. So, for instance, the first product you choose, we don't know if it's going to be right. You don't know if it's going to be right. You're going to try your darndest. But to keep it from being a horrible and costly mistake, keep it simple, keep it small. Only purchase, say, 300 units. You do not have to do all 500 units. And please, please do not buy 1,000 units of your first product ever. It's just, you want to keep, there is always a risk and there is a chance that you will make a mistake, but a mistake of 300 units is much, much easier to get over than a mistake of 1,000 units. So think of it that way in terms of layers. So now you've chosen this great product. It's simple, it's small, it's inexpensive, but you are not going to customize it right away. You have some great ideas about how you can differentiate it. Instead of employing all of them, adding cost and time to your process, try one or two. If it starts to work, you can go back on your next order and add a little more differentiation. So maybe your first time around, you don't put your logo on the product. Maybe you don't put a logo on it at all. Maybe you don't even have your logo figured out. Go ahead and sell your product unbranded. Once you learn the system and you see that this product is going to sell, and meanwhile, you have a better idea of what you want your brand to be all about. So you've created a logo. Now go back and add the logo to the product. Maybe the third time around, you say, all right, this is selling so well, I can afford to customize packaging. Now you add custom packaging with your logo and your product. So think about building your business in layers. And that will de-risk each step. And each time you move forward, you'll gain more confidence. One, you'll gain experience and more knowledge, but you'll also gain confidence because if you take things slow and steady, you're going to see success rather than putting in a ton of time and a ton of money and throwing this thing out there and then a whimper. That's not going to feel very successful. You're going to feel like you absolutely failed when in fact you didn't. I mean, that's how business is. You do it again, you do it better, you do it differently. Even if you have a really big success with a particular product, the product is not going to sustain you for life. You're still going to need to have another one. And the next one might not be anywhere near as big a success. That's just kind of the odds of life. So on that, yeah, Gavin mentions the fear of picking the wrong product for the first time, and a couple people piled on that idea. So Fred, let you talk a little bit about that angst of choosing the first product.
I think that that can be relieved by first of all, this is the most important part of the course. So the first things that you deal with when you come in as a newbie, and you can't even understand what is that language you're speaking, and if there's any questions on that, feel free to ask us. Knowing the investigative process beyond the first page of Amazel, knowing what you need to do in the back end behind there, and once again, don't be lazy, be organized. Actually have a spreadsheet comparing what you're seeing from your competitors and from your products, etc. And can you build off of your competitors' negative reviews? For example, You have your coffee cup sliding around on the dash of your car, and you create something that helps it to stick to the thing. You've now fixed a problem that is creating negative reviews for your competitor, but you need to get back in there and look at those competitors' reports and confirm that they're actually selling the same product or similar product, and just get a really solid feel for the marketplace to make sure it's deep enough to allow you to make money in some sales. Have a good look at that. How many people are making money here, or is there just one or two that are dominating the whole market because they're a brand that people recognize, for example, that type of thing. That's another thing when you're choosing a product. Try to make it a product that there isn't any brand loyalty to. A case for Christine's glasses is a good example. There's no brand loyalty to a case for glasses. You just need to put them someplace where they don't get scratched. So thoroughness of investigation, simplicity, and not fighting against brand loyalty would be my suggestions.
Excellent. Thank you, Fred. So based on the comments, we're going to move on to a discussion of company name, brand, and trademark. So let me just give you a quick overview because it's something that's mentioned in the start section. And I think sometimes this is not information that people are ready to digest when they first start the course. So you should watch the videos in the start section, but don't feel bad if you don't complete the steps that they talk about doing. It may just be that you need a little more time to get further along in your education and further along in the idea of even launching a product before you're ready to create the framework for a business. So basically, you will need a business name. My recommendation is always that your business name be extremely non-specific, so that when we hear your business name, it doesn't automatically make me think of kitchen products or sporting goods or baby shoes or whatever. Make it general. This way, you can set it up now and it will work no matter how your business grows. And sometimes a business grows in one direction and then it takes a turn and it grows in another direction. A general sounding business name will handle that, and you won't have to go back and redo this part. So one of the techniques I used for creating a business name was I just made a list of things that I like my favorite color and different flowers and just things that I liked. And what I did was I just started taking words off of this list randomly and putting them together, like a first name, last name kind of thing. And that's how I came up with a business name. There's about a bazillion ways to do that, but ultimately what that name is so not important. You want to make sure that you register your business name. Now, in the States, what that means is that you file a DBA. Now, in the start section, we do talk about creating an LLC, and there is a reason to create an LLC, and it is important, but it does not have to be done immediately. You can start selling and then come back to that. It's kind of expensive. So when you create your LLC, you want to be sure that that's the name you're going to go with, and you're not going to want to change it. And you want to have some ideas about how your business is going to run, kind of settled and decided before you make that investment. A DBA costs about $35, $45, depending upon what state you're in. It's a form that you can fill out yourself. It is so simple. It just asks for your name and your address, the name of your business that you want to use, and that's pretty much it. So what it does, though, is it registers your business name so that no one else can take that name. And in order to file your DBA, you have to in some way prove that you've already researched and someone isn't already using that name. So one of the things you want to do, this just occurred to me because I was talking to somebody yesterday about a business name. One of the things you want to do as you're deciding on your name is Google. Please use Google. If you come up with a name, Red Sneakers, and you want the name to be Red Sneakers, that's great. Great idea. Google it. See what comes up. Maybe a business will come up. If that business is in any way related to retail, selling stuff, you're probably not going to get that business name for your name, and you don't want it because someone else is using it. The other thing is check to see if the URL is available. Since you don't have your business name established yet, it can technically be anything. So you want it to be something where you can get the URL to match it so that you can start to put your business collateral together and you have this branding. So look it up, go to GoDaddy or one of these other ones that searches names for you and see if it's available. If it's not available, chances are pretty good there's already a business using that name. So you probably want to let that name go and come up with, idea number 2. And don't feel bad, because a lot of people, you're going to go through a bunch of different name ideas and you're going to fall in love with each one of them until you get to the one that has all the pieces available, that kind of meets all the criteria. And then that'll be the one. But most people don't just wake up one morning and say, oh, I know, my business name is going to be blah, blah, blah. And then that turns out to be that way. It's okay, but do your research first. Now, after you have your business name, you're going to need a brand name. Your brand name and your business name can be the same because, again, they don't really matter. A brand name does not have to have any meaning at all. What gives it meaning is when we attach it to a product. So like this glasses case right here has a little hang tag on it and it says gamma ray. Well, gamma ray doesn't really mean anything. I guess scientifically it probably does mean something. But that's obviously the name of the company. So until they put it on this glasses, they could have put it on sneakers. They could have put it on anything. Now, when I see it on here, and I see it every day because this case is sitting here on my desk, I start to associate gamma ray with glasses case and maybe even glasses. That's how it gets meaning. The word itself, it could be XYZ, it could be Acme, wouldn't make any difference. So what I suggest is keep your business name and your brand name the same. They don't have to be different. If you choose to have a different brand name from your business name, what you're going to do is you're going to do another DBA, because your business name, being a DBA, can own another DBA. And when your business name becomes an LLC, same name, now you've turned it into an LLC, your LLC can own the brand name. And then years from now, if you decide you want to launch a second brand or a third brand, your LLC can own more DBAs that are separate brand names. But at this point, I wouldn't spend a whole lot of time building out this big old business structure. Just keep it simple. Just get what you absolutely need and move forward. Now, trademarking, again, trademarking is like LLC. Yes, there is a good reason for it. You should do it. Do you need to do it today? Absolutely not. If you want to, if you have the time, the idea, the cash, go for it. If not, just think about it. And then later on, this is another layer that you can add to your Amazon business when you trademark your logo. You have to have a logo. So you got your brand name, get a logo. What I suggest is that you incorporate some part of your name into the logo, whether it be the actual name, if it's nice and short, or some initials, so that it's all one piece. And that graphic, that logo with the lettering on it, is what you're going to trademark. I'm going to pause there because I've been talking for a while. Let me take a look at some of these questions.
I'll kick in for a moment there. We're often saying get organized and precise about what you're doing. So Christina's just laid out 2 or 3 goals that you will need to get to at some point. So this could go down on paper or on your whiteboard. You need to prioritize it. It doesn't need to be done today. There might be some things that you just simply stick up in the top corner so that you're constantly reminded that, oh, yes, I do need to get a trademark. Oh, yes, I do need to license my company and make sure this name is available. So as you go through your regular list, which might be buying a printer or getting a better computer or getting a comfortable chair to sit in at your desk, well, as you're building the actual assets of your business, physical assets. So getting organized and having that written down and constantly knowing that needs to be done will do you much better than just trying to keep that in your head and going, oh, well, I need to do this today, and I'm, if you know what I mean. Then you can look right at your tasks and prioritize, what do I need to do today.
Absolutely. Good point, Fred. And the other benefit of writing down those kind of long-term tasks is when you have one of those days where you feel like, I don't know what to do next. You have some longer term projects written down. You can take a look at those and go, oh yeah, okay, well I should do some work to get toward that. That's really helpful. T-Bone says trademarks. So I should trademark the company or trademark every item I list on Amazon. What you're doing actually, T-Bone, is you're trademarking your logo, and then you're slapping that logo on everything you list on Amazon. And then it's going to be on your website. So that's what we talk about when we talk about branding. It's getting your name and a logo. So you've got a name and a graphical representation of that name. And again, I mean, it only has meaning because you're using these two things together. That's all. And branding has to do with name recognition. So the more times you put that logo out, the more times people are going to see it and start to remember it. So that's what you're trademarking, that logo, so that you can stick it on all of your products. Jackson has a logo issue. Got my logo design back on Tuesday. Having hesitation, even though we like it. Wondering how it could be better rather than just committing and moving forward with trademark and submitting to suppliers. You know, I understand that hesitation. That's kind of a step. And once you decide that that is your logo and you're not going to have any more revisions done by the logo team, you kind of want to stick with it, right? So you want to like it. I don't think it's bad that you took a day or two to just let that concept sink in. Sometimes when you jump right away in making a decision, you forget to look at details. I can give you an example. I've been working with a client on a resume, and bless her heart, she's lovely, and had a lot of positive things to say about the draft. And then, you know, okay, well, but change this, add that. This is wrong. Okay, great. Did all the revisions, and I'm thinking, this is great. We're done. And then she says, oh, this is great, but one more thing. I miss one of my jobs isn't on there. And I kind of thought to myself, so when I first sent you this resume draft, and you notice that the job you do now is not listed on the resume, it would be near the top. Why wasn't that the first thing that you said, oh, we got to fix that? But what happens is we get excited about the visual, the immediate, the whatever our eye goes to first, and we don't take the time to go through the details. So it's the same thing when I'm writing, I'm editing something I've written. You have to stop, set it aside, walk away, give it some time, and then come back and look at it with fresh eyes. So Jackson, don't worry about losing a couple days. Now, hopefully you've had a chance to go through, look at all the details, kind of go through the scenarios in your head, like what is this going to look like if I put it on this product? What is it going to look like on a package? How is it going to look on my website? And hopefully now you're ready to go forward. Let's see. Ooh, there's so many more questions. Um, so our LLC name for our eBay account is Peeniewally. Would that be our business name? Yes, your LLC name is your business name. You can put that on your Seller Central account. If it's only your business name, no one is necessarily going to see it. That's going to go on things like your invoices. Customers will see your brand name. Now, if you choose to use the same name as your brand name, that will show up when you list your product on Amazon. It's going to ask you for the manufacturer name and the brand name. And you're going to put either your business name if it's all the same, or your brand name if you've chosen a different brand name. That's what people are going to see. That's what customers are going to see on the listing and associated with your product. William says, I have my LLC, but no DBA. That's fine. You went right to the LLC step. That's fine. You don't need to have both. It's just that if you're going to start and not do the LLC right away, you at least need the DBA. And there is no trouble converting a DBA to an LLC. So once you have the DBA, you will still be able to keep that same name when you're ready to do your LLC. But you don't have to have both. I found NameStation helpful for coming up with trademark names. It has a lot of options to create a name and checks for the domain at the same time. NameStation.com. Hey, great. I think there are a number of different tools out there if you need help choosing a name. I love that tool that also checks the domain at the same time. That's perfect, because that kind of takes an extra step away from you. I think you should still, when it comes up with something, definitely Google it, just to be sure. You never know what comes up. I've probably told this story in here before, but when I first came up with my business name, I had put these words together and came up with a bunch of different ideas, and I'd Googled and gone back and forth. And for some reason, when I made this last decision, I did not Google it. So I created a logo for myself with this name, and I was all ready to kind of, be official. And I went to get the URL and it wasn't available. And I thought, oh, Christine, why didn't you check that first? What were you thinking? So then I Googled the name, and it turns out that it was like a secured site. I'm guessing that it was some type of adult business is all I can figure out. So of course I had to change my name, because first of all, it was already used. And secondly, that's not the market niche I was planning to go into at all. And I thought, no, what have I done? What have I done? So I luckily was able to change it, keeping the same initials so that the logo I had created was still appropriate. But yeah, I thought, boy, oh boy, talk about skipping a good step. We did not research to see if anyone else has the name Peeniewally. I probably should research it if it becomes our logo brand. You know what, T-Bone? I would research it right now. Just so you know, if you decide to go forward with it. I mean, it is your LLC, so I'm guessing you can't have an LLC if the business name was already taken. But you never know what has transpired in the interim. So just because you have an LLC for that name, it doesn't mean that meanwhile somebody else didn't come along, decide they were going to name their business that, and didn't register the name, but decided to buy the URL and slap up a website and start selling adult products. You never know. So definitely Google it, see what's going on out there. Then you'll know. But there be any complications if instead of Jurgis says, would there be any complications if instead of BMP LLC I use Oh, I see what you're saying. Instead of having a three-word name and the words beginning with B, M, and P, I use a two-word name, B and P, and the M is small in there. You have to use, once you have your LLC, that determines how you write your name, your business name, what your business name is and how you represent it. So if you're asking me, I'm sorry, Jurgis, I'm trying to follow you. I'm just not exactly sure what the question is. Try to rephrase it for me. Must be that mid-Hudson Valley accent that is confusing me. Okay, William, what can I do to keep my company name for my website? Should I create a website to hold the spot? All you have to do, William, is buy the URL, and then that spot is yours. You don't have to put your website up right away. Just go ahead and buy the URL. So, and it's usually, if you go through something cheap like GoDaddy, it will, it's a nominal charge. I don't know if, hold on, I don't know what's happening on my screen right now. Here we go. I don't know, if you go through one of those cheap ones, it's going to be like 20 bucks or something. It's not a big expense. And this way you have the URL that goes with your business name. So when you're ready to do your website, you're good to go. All right, Jurgis, would I have to make an official LLC change? I don't know for sure. You know what? That is really bordering on a legal question. Either ask your attorney who did your LLC for you, or if you don't have one, try like LegalZoom or one of those, but get an official answer to that. Okay. It looks like we're running out of questions here, Fred.
So I'm just wondering if we have any really new people in the group today. Maybe we can cover some basics if there are some here. You're muted, Kristen.
Got it. We actually do have a couple new people in here, I believe.
Okay. So while we're waiting for other questions to roll in, we do prioritize newbies because that's what this is for. So we'll go over some basic stuff. So be patient with us. So first of all, getting needing a SKU in order to set up your listing in order to obtain your ASIN or your FNSQ as well. So an ASIN is a card holder place in the catalog. So it's basically a catalog number. And then your FNSQ identifies the product that is in the little box and who that belongs to. So the computer knows where to go and pick the items up. So you have I'm trying to think, Christina, the first one where you buy the SKU, what is that called?
Your UPC?
Thank you. Your UPC, you'll be asked to put one in. And you'll have to ask on the Facebook page. We've gone all the way from having to just get it from a rather expensive place, but I think there's still some other places that work that are less expensive. But you will need one of those each time you introduce another product or the child of that product, like a blue cup and an orange cup, two different FNSQs. So you will need one of those when you start putting your product in. Then you will receive your FNSQ. The FNSQ needs to be labeled on your product on the outermost area. That is to say, if you have a nice box package, which is really nice, but it's put into a bag, then the FNSQ goes on the bag. Or under the bag extremely visible. Whole thing is that they have to be able to scan it. So you don't put it on going around a corner of the package or anything like that. So that's a common question, which is understandable.
Yes,
Christine?
that's helpful. Yeah, definitely have that barcode printed right onto your package when you're ready to do custom packaging. And then, one thing I learned after the fact was that you want to protect your product with an OPP bag when you send them into FBA. When you send them into the Amazon warehouse, FBA, fulfilled by Amazon, you're going to have all of your units and you're going to send a whole batch of them in. And I always thought that, hey, packaging, I did a really nice box for my product. And one of the problems I had with it was that it was a white box because it was a wedding gift. And I was getting some of them returned because they had I had them sent back to me because I wanted to see them. They had like black fingerprints on them. It never occurred to me that, the guys working in an Amazon warehouse that are doing the pack and pull, they're not wearing white gloves. And although my product is a nice and simple, clean thing, they're pulling other products off the shelf that maybe aren't that clean. So you want to put your packaging, your package, your thing, your unit into an OPP. Do we get to have bloopers? Can we cut that section out?
Wait a minute, can I rephrase that?
Please do.
Yeah. You basically you're protecting it in a plastic bag to avoid the kind of contamination from within the warehouse, so that your unit will remain protected and clean.
Oh dear! Oh dear!
Oh, we digress.
Sorry about that. And we need to be careful because people take things differently, perhaps than we do. That seemed harmless to me, but let's not upset anyone. That reminds me, I had a section of sample copy that I threw up in the Facebook group a while ago to get some reactions to, and one of the reactions I got was a little bit over the top. I didn't think that it had that much of a specific innuendo to it, and I realized that to some people it did, and you got to be so careful. So we will talk about your products and your packaging, not your unit. But anyway, the whole point of that was that they need to be in plastic bags. So if you have your barcode, if you're doing custom packaging, have your barcode printed on the package because they're already printing the package. It's not going to cost extra. And then put the package inside an OPP bag, and it's clear. And if you position it properly so that the choke warning on the bag is not covering the barcode on the box, you're all set. Just one little thing to pay attention to. And yes, Karen points out there's no crying in FBA. I don't know. I suspect. I've had a couple days where if I could go over to FBA, I would have been crying. I can tell you that. All right, so we have reached the end of our hour, and as much fun as this has been, we'll wait and see what Fred is digging out of the back of his office. There he comes. What you got for us, Fred?
I've got an OPP bag.
Oh, cool. And no, for all of you acronym people, I don't really know what OPP stands for. I'm guessing one of the P's is plastic.
So you can buy these on Amazon, especially in the States, quite inexpensively. If the opening in the top of the bag is more than 5 inches, you have to have this warning on there. This choking warning has to be on there.
Excellent. And you don't need to know what the choke warning has to say. It's standard language. So when you order those OPP bags, you can order them with the choke warning printed on them. If you order them, if you have your supplier put the product in an OPP bag, you have to tell them that you want the choke warning. And if they don't have the bags with it printed on it, they can do a sticker but they should have that language. It's pretty standard. And I found that when I order the bags, I order mine off a website called Value Mailer. I originally found them on eBay. There's a number of different like mailing supply companies where you can get them. And I don't think that the choke warning adds an extra price to it. It's just part of the product. T-Bone says, I don't understand at what point you use the bag. Okay, when you're all done, you get your product, maybe you have an add-on or something else, you put it into the box, its individual box, and then you put each one of those individual boxes into that plastic bag that Fred has. And it's self-sealing. It has like a little rip strip that you pull off and then you seal it down. And the good part about that is that you can open it, reopen it, and close it if you messed up. And so every one of your products is going to be in its own individual OPP bag when you send them off into FBA. Now, if you're just starting out and you're not doing custom packaging, you may actually be only putting your product into an OPP bag, and your supplier might actually be doing that for you. It all depends. You want to ask your supplier near the beginning of this process what kind of packaging they offer, and they may say, you can have an OPP bag, or they might do some kind of packaging. And to keep your initial product inexpensive, you may just go with the OPP bag for starters. Add that custom packaging on later as an added layer. So each one of your units, whether it's in a box or not, is going to be in an OPP bag, and then go into the warehouse to wait for someone to order it. Camila wants to know why you need the warning on the bag. It's Amazon standard procedure. It has to do with safety, product safety. So they have designated that if your bag opening is more than 5 inches, then the bag is deemed big enough for a toddler to stick it on their head. And because of that, they want to have that choke warning on there. What I say is err on the side of caution. Why use any plastic bag without the choke warning on it? It doesn't cost extra. And if it keeps someone a little more safe, why not? Just go with it. When you send it into Amazon, is it this when it is shipped to the customer? Yes. So the condition in which you send your things into Amazon is the same condition that they're going to go to your customer. So you're going to have your product. Say you have a product. I'm looking down here to see if I have a sample product up here. I don't. I just don't. So you're going to have your product. It's going to be in a box. Say it's in a box. The box is going to be in a plastic bag, and it's going to go to Amazon and sit on the shelf. When somebody orders it, they're going to pull it off the shelf just like that, still in the plastic bag, and send it off and package it now for shipping and send it off to the customer. By the way, sometimes when you get a customer return, you'll find that the reasons for the returns are very unsatisfactory because Amazon doesn't require them to give you much detail. So if the customer bought your product and then decided for whatever reason they just don't want it, or it doesn't have to be defective for them to return it. And what they say is they use a standard reason for the return so they don't have to pay the postage to send it back. But anyway, what will happen sometimes is Amazon will say, well, you have an unfulfillable unit. It means that a customer sent something back and it is not in a condition in which they can resell it. They can't stick it back on the shelf. So you'll have to remove it. And what I find is I remove these, and it happens every once in a while, not very often. Sometimes the only reason that it's unfulfillable is because they have ripped open that OPP bag and it can no longer be sealed again and closed again. So all I do is throw away the crummy bag, put it in a fresh one, make sure that the labeling is still right, and send it back. Or sometimes the box is crushed or something, and Amazon decides, well, the seal is broken on the box. Well, they can't resell it. Again, I get it. The product is fine. I put it in a fresh box, reseal it, put it in a bag, send it back.
Christine, you're answering a question about how Amazon sends items to the customers. And I bought this beautiful Tibet singing bowl from one of our members. Isn't that a beautiful package? Well done. Really, really nice. And that came in this box, considerably larger. And it's got bubbles in it, and it was all wrapped in plastic, and very well done. Really nice item that I got here.
I have to hand it to Amazon. They usually do a good job of packaging for shipping. You still want to make sure that your product, especially if your product is breakable or crushable, you still want to make sure that your packaging protects it. But Amazon does a pretty good job of packaging also. So Fred, we've run like 10 minutes over. We're having so much fun talking about plastic bags and units going to Amazon that we've just run out of time.
Yes.
So I think it's a good time for us to sign off before we get too crazy.
All right, that sounds good. Really nice to hear from everyone again. Thank you very much for coming and joining us. It's always a pleasure.
Yes, and it was good to see some new members in the newbie chat today. Although I do appreciate seeing the same old members. I'm not calling you old, but you know what I mean. So thanks everybody for joining us, and hopefully you'll be back again next Friday when we will have probably completely different material for the newbie chat. Enjoy your week.
Enjoy your week. Bye.